Hi YouTube family. Today is a big day for me. 33 years I've been married. It's my anniversary and I want to say, love you hon. It's been a great 33 years, all the ups and downs and all around, and if I had to do it over again, I surely would. But anyway, and please, if anybody's watching this video, subscribe. I really need help pushing this channel, so thank you. Talk about my wife today. She's kind of a private person. She doesn't want to be involved in these videos. She hates to have her picture taken. But anyway, talk about her career. She retired at 55 from teaching. She was an English teacher, high school English, and she started right out of college. I mean, she graduated high school at 17 because her birthday is November. So she graduated college, obviously, when she was 21. Took a teaching job in the Adirondack Park at a small school there, and taught 1 year. She literally hated it her first year teaching. First day, she really hated because they were going everybody was going to the auditorium for, well, I don't know, just how they started. So she was taking her class there and walking with them, and they were in a line, single file, and a teacher took her by the shoulders and told her to back in line. And she had to explain that she was a teacher because she was very immature. When she was 21, she hadn't developed yet, and she just looked a lot younger, looked like a senior. So anyway, she quit at the end of the first year. Said she's done teaching, didn't know what she was going to do. She moved back home, and life goes on. And it just so happened that a friend of hers from church taught in a local school and told her that there was an opening there for an English teacher, and she really didn't want to apply, but she did, got the job, taught a year in that school, got married, took some time off, had first child, and went back to teaching, but went to a school closer to her home, which she finished her career there, taught for the remainder of her career. She had to teach 20 years to get full retirement. Now, she taught high school English, and she always went with the at-risk students. And when asked why she would do that, because she could have picked anything, by the time she had tenure, she could have picked any class that she wanted to teach, something easier. And the brainiacs were easier to teach. And when asked why, she would always say, well, if she had a flat tire in the parking lot at school, hit a nail on the way in and the tire goes flat, that one of those deals, that the brainiacs would walk by it and make believe they didn't even notice it was a flat tire. Where the at-risk kids, they'd all be fighting for the chance to change her tire. So that was one of the reasons. And she was, by that point, a single mother. She got divorced very early, had 2 children, and ended the marriage. And then she spent 13 years just taking care of family before she even started dating. And we met. And life goes on. And she retired at 20 years, not realizing what she had. And what they do is, in New York State anyway, she had terrible wages, could barely make a go of it, always took a summer job, sometimes night jobs during Christmas season and stuff, at a local store, at Penny's, I think it was, in what was in the mall. Anyway, long story short, like I said, she didn't realize that at the end of 20 years, the last 3 years of her career, they bumped her income up to about twice what it had been previous to that, because her retirement was based on the amount of income she had the last 3 years. And they gave her a simple job to do that it only paid $1,000 per semester, but you figure that's $2,000 a year added to the income. Now she's been retired for, oh my gosh, she's been retired over 20 years now. So she's got a bonus. That $2,000 a year that she was making then turned into well, over $1,000 per month for 20 years. That adds up to to being real money in your retirement. And also she had great medical insurance. We've always had really good medical insurance at a very small copay. And when she retired, she found out, and she didn't know this either, she never paid much attention to retirement. It's just something that happened. That now that we are senior citizens and we get Medicare, we get reimbursed through New York State Teachers Association for our Medicare premiums. So every quarter we get a check back from them, which is, it's a nice size check. It's a nice bonus, I guess you could say. She never knew that until it happened. So yeah, like I say, she loved teaching. She was one of the old-fashioned type teachers. She actually had discipline, believe it or not. Kids knew before they got to her class what to expect. And that's just the way it is when you're in high school. You pay attention to who your next teacher is. They're going to be nice, naughty, or nasty, And she had discipline. She was very firm, but yet she had great friendship with a lot of her students. She'd go hiking with some of them sometimes, something that you wouldn't be able to do now. I mean, pick up kids and go for hikes and stuff, and got connections. And how I can tell she was a great teacher was when Facebook came along and she got on Facebook, some of her old students looked her up and, thanked her. I'm choked up, I know but thanked her for being the teacher that she was, having discipline, structure, and taught them something. So that's kind of neat, I guess, when your life is touched by other kids. Anyway, life goes on. I mean, she retired, like I say, at 55. Took a year off, worked in my business with me in the greenhouse business for a year. And then she got a call from another school district. Principal knew her and asked her if she'd do a long-term sub for a job for a teacher that was out on maternity leave. So she did. She did that for actually 2 semesters, long-term. And then she'd take off, and then she'd get another call to do another job and stuff. And she did take the last year off that we lived in New York. We lived in a cabin back in the woods, a mile off grid, heated with wood, and enjoyed life for a year. And then we moved south, got down here, and of course her reputation preceded her. And well, not really, but anyway, people found out she was a teacher, and there's this girls' camp, and they take problem girls in and teach them structure, how to work together, and they live in tents. It's amazing, back in the woods. So she called herself a teacher with a backpack, and she'd teach in the woods. Actually, she was teaching algebra then, so she had to take a quick course on the internet to learn algebra. She had it in school, but you don't use it for 30 years, you kind of forget it or more. But anyway, so she did that for a couple years, took a year off, and we went to West Africa and spent a year there. And she taught Muslim women that, well, they were Christians by that point, but she taught them some basic English because they never went to school. School, well, it wasn't for girls back then, and now it is, but not a very good education system. The English teacher there is somebody that never knew English. I mean, didn't grow up with English, learned it somewhat in college, and then is teaching. And she couldn't believe some of the assignments they'd send home with the kids because let's face it, if you're a teacher, kids will learn, especially in that area. There was one little boy came to our gate, and he said, told my wife, he goes, you be my teacher. And she goes, what? She goes, why aren't you in school? She goes, well, couldn't afford to go to school. School was free, but not really free, because you had to supply your own, you had to buy your books and your uniform. Other than that, it was free, but his mother was very poor, had no income other than she lost her husband, 4 kids, and she survived. And we saw her living conditions, and it was unbelievable. It was a metal shack, a long one, split up in like 10 by 10 rooms. It was like a storage unit would be here, made all out of metal and hot. And we looked inside of it. There were 2 mattresses on the floor, and that's about all there was room for. And that's where they lived, a family of 5. Unbelievable. And we took this kid and sent him to school. We bought him his uniforms and books, and we paid for his education for several years. But then his mother being so poor, and really the only way to survive there, if you have a young boy, and especially if he's good looking, he can go on the beach and beg and get more money than she can begging, because obviously she's 4 kids later. And anyway, so he finally just, he didn't drop out, but he wasn't going, and we stopped paying for his schooling, and we warned him for a couple of years, paid it, and sent him back, and it'd be the same thing over and over again. So we finally just, we quit. It wasn't that much money. It was maybe equal to $100 a year, maybe a little bit more, because we were paying for his lunches too, so he had something to eat. But in Gambia, that's the country we were in West Africa, young boys can do an apprenticeship with somebody. There were a lot of carpenters, very crude. I mean, as far as their tools go, they had no electricity, and they'd make these amazing bed frames, you know, the headboard, tailboard, and all that. Because in that country, when you got a young man got married, he bought his wife the best bed, price wise anyway, that he could afford, and that was just the way it was. So there are a lot of guys making beds, and they'd have these young guys come along, and they might pay them $1 here and there just to help out, and there's a lot of, you call it slave labor almost for what they got out of it, but they could learn something. And Hassan, the kid that we helped, he was into fixing bicycles, so he'd worked in a shop where the guy fixed bicycles, and he learned that trade. We hear from him once in a while. He still stays in touch through Facebook, and the one thing with anybody in the Gambia, it's such a poor country, and the only time they really talk to you is if they need money, and we just don't send any money. You don't know how it's going to be spent. We had somebody over there that we would send money to, and he'd take care of, like Hassan, pay for his books and stuff, and we'd always pay him a little extra because he had to do some running around, checking on the kid and keeping track of him and all that. So we did pay for that. But anyway, getting back to my wife, she just loves teaching, and after she got done in West Africa, we came back home, and she went as a teacher's aide. She didn't want to jump through all the hoops to be recertified in South Carolina, so she just did teacher's aide for a few years, and then the superintendent of schools, which went to the same church, told her if she wanted to teach, she could teach in any of the schools. He'd set her up to teach, and she didn't have to have certification because, well, he knew that she was qualified. So she did teach a couple years. She taught till she was 75, and the last 2 years, I did everything in the house. She said she couldn't do it unless I helped. I had to do all the housework, cooking, cleaning, shopping, everything. And another thing nice about her being a school teacher and me having a greenhouse business, my season ended about the same time her school year ended. So we always had summers together. We've always gone grocery shopping together. We've always done a lot together. So when retirement hit us, we were already spending a lot of time together. And even though she'd go back and forth to working, not working, and like I said, she should have stayed probably as a teacher for another 5 or 10 years, and her retirement income would have been super great. But it's good. Her retirement is good. I never expected to get old, and all of a sudden, here I am. I'm an old man. I never expected it. I really didn't. I guess I always thought I'd stay young, but you know you're going to get old, but you just don't realize when you're younger how fast life goes by, and appreciate those little things now. If you're thinking about retiring, I can just say retire as early as you can, because life is short. There's no guarantees, no promises. When God says your time's up, your time is going to be up. There's no negotiations. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with this, and God bless. And please, 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 if you're here at this point, subscribe to my channel. It would help it out. I'm running like, I've got 4 whole subscribers, and I need more. So, and I'm trying. I hope that I'm getting better than my first video.